Privyet, Drizia. Hello, friends. It's me, Catherine Ivers Norton, the author of The Stain. It is November 30th, 2021, and we're going to take a peek at Chapter 16, which is titled Hot Slava X2. And let's just take it from the top of the chapter and see what Miss Cassandra is up to. A fierce gust of wind struck my face as I slipped out of Slava's front door. The excited air whipped my hair wildly around my head and blew bits of salty grit into my eye. The wind smelled like the sea, swirled with a trace of cigarette smoke. An electrical charge lifted the fine hairs on my arms. Flashes of blue light lit the sky to the west. I wrapped my fur coat tightly around me and hurried back to Lena's. The first bolt of lightning struck as I opened the patio door. Then a sudden deluge fell from the sky the moment I stepped inside. I stood at the door, watching the storm for some time, marveling at the ferocity with which the rain slapped the earth. Great arcs of lightning speared from the sky. Zeus is angry tonight, I thought, awed by the power and majesty of nature. When I made it back to my room and crawled into the cold bed, it was after 4 a.m. When I woke hours later, nearly 2 feet of fresh snow covered the ground from the passage of a strong springtime cold front. I was pleased to see the thick blanket of white covering my crimes from the night before. The sun shone brightly and the world looked clean and new. Lena was at her laptop at the kitchen table when I went downstairs. "Good morning," she said warmly. "How are you feeling?" "Wonderful," I answered enthusiastically. She raised an eyebrow, knowing something was up. I was not known for morning cheerfulness. "Did you and?" she asked, knowingly, making the big muscles gesture to represent Ilya. He was a convenient treat she probably would not have passed up. "Mon Dieu, no," I laughed, "but I do have a secret," I teased. She looked at me expectantly. "Coffee first," I said, helping myself to a cup of the black stuff and taking a sip before I spoke. "And?" she asked. "This is big. You have to swear to keep my secret," I demanded. Oui, absolutely. What is it?" she asked excitedly. "Pinky swear," I said in English, holding out my hooked little finger. She joined her pinky to mine and we shook on it. That made the oath binding. Looking over my shoulder to make sure we were alone, I breathed, "X." "C'est quoi ça?" "Oh my God, darling, this is wonderful," she exclaimed, beaming. "When?" she asked. "I went to him last night," I confessed. "What about Dirk?" She frowned, not wanting to speak Sergei's name. He wasn't worth a secret letter to her. My heart sank, the reality of the situation bursting the bubble of my happiness. I would have to end the affair with Slava. Why couldn't I have them both? Sergei was coming home from Turkey tomorrow night. I had one more night at Lena's before I would face my husband with a heart laden with secrets. How could I possibly hide something so big from him? He knew me so well. I shivered in the warm sunlight. Lena looked at me with sympathy shining in her eyes. No doubt she'd had similar dilemmas. I glanced outside to see Ilya smoking a cigarette as he shoveled a path to the door. A great plume of smoke swirled around his head as he exhaled. I noticed a truck had already been by to plow the street, and the driveway was clear. There was nothing to keep us in. Lena and I spent the afternoon at the museum, and then we met Pyotr for a lavish dinner out in the city. We walked the brightly lit Nevsky Prospect Avenue and along the bank of the Neva River, enjoying St. Petersburg's colorfully painted, illuminated buildings and their charming reflections dancing cheerfully upon the water. The city had an elegance that transcended time. They call St. Petersburg Venice of the North, and it was easy to see why. The rivers and canals crisscrossed throughout the city. At last, we returned home and called it an early night. I gave Ilya the slip again and knocked quietly on Slava's door precisely at midnight. The door opened instantly, and I stepped from the cold right into his warm embrace. He hugged me hard, lifted me off the floor and spun me around, his face beaming. "Ah, Sandrushka!" he exclaimed, kissing me loudly. And we have to stop there before it gets too steamy. Some things you just have to read for yourself. Okay, so a couple things I want to point out. One is the word burk. This is a French word that means yuck, and Lena uses that to describe Sergei because she doesn't want to use his name, and he's not worth a secret letter, so she says yuck. What about yuck? So that tells you how Lena feels about her, Cassandra's husband. That's one thing. Another thing is that I wanted to remind you that Cassandra is a character in a story, and this is one moment of her entire life, right? And it's easy to make snap judgments like she is fill in the blank, she shouldn't, whatever, right? If you read the book, then you have the benefit of knowing more about what's going on in her life. But that's really not that important. What is important is the recognition that, yeah, she's a character in a story, but so are we. Our lives are stories, and some of us might feel bad about things that we've done in the past and say, oh, I should never have done that. I made a big mistake. I should have known better. And I say, no, yes. You couldn't have done better. You did the best you could. And the reason I know that for sure is that we all do the best we can, you know, like nobody's going out saying, I'm going to really screw myself over and whatever, you know what I mean? We do the best we can in the moment because we don't have the benefit of the wisdom that we have now looking back. So it's easier to look back and say, oh, I should have done that. You know, I was a fill in the blank, or I should have whatever, right? And that's it. So if you can look at yourself as a character in a story who's made mistakes and will continue to make mistakes on the path to learning, and approach that character with a sense of understanding, forgiveness, and compassion, that'll take us a long way to us being able to extend that to other people when we really don't know the story behind anyone else's life or why they act the way they do. So I just wanted to leave you with that thought that, you know, a little compassion, understanding, accepting of the mystery that you just don't know, and not making those snap judgments. Just reel that back and say, you know, I don't know, and that's okay. So that's it for tonight. I'm looking forward to reading from chapter 17. Hopefully we'll get to that tomorrow. And I wanted to wish you good night in Russian. And what we say is Spokojnej noci. See you tomorrow, friends.